So let's talk about the Owl House. So recently, Season 2B of the Owl House has piqued my interest. I'm hyper-fixated on it and it's consumed my life. So, before Clouds on the Horizon airs, I want to talk about what's happened so far in Season 2 episodes 11-19. Spoilers for those, by the way. First up, Follies at the Coven Day Parade. Basically, Luz and Ida have their own separate adventures featuring Amity, Rain, and Kikimora of all people. Of course, she was evil in the end, but I appreciated the mix between Luz's story and Ida's throughout the episode. After all, I am a sucker for subplots. Now, I didn't really find much important in this episode that could be covered in Clouds on the Horizon, that hasn't been covered in Labyrinth Runners or O Titan, Where Art Thou? Which means we get to mosey on over to Elsewhere and Elsewhen, which has mostly been solved by Hollow Mind, which I will talk about later, and Edge of the World. In Elsewhere and Elsewhen, Luz and Lilith visit the past and meet Philip Witterbane, who was basically being bullied, and they ran up to help him. At the end of the episode, of course, it's revealed to the audience, not the characters, that Philip is actually the young Emperor Bellows. Yes, him, and we see him talking to the Collector, who hasn't been seen much up to this point. In fact, he isn't even seen here, just his voice. But we'll get back to him in a few. In fact, he isn't even seen here, just his voice. But we'll get back to him in a few episodes. Now we get to one of my comfort episodes, Any Sport in a Storm. Hunter goes on a side quest to Hexside to totally not kidnap people into the Emperor's Coven when he meets Willow, Gus, Skara, and Viney, who are all great characters who deserve more. They play a game of Flyer Derby, a really cool fictional capture the flag game, and then Hunter makes an O, leading him to have to save the Emerald Entrails from Darius, who is also one of my favorite people. First of all, if you don't like Willow, red flag. Second of all, Hunter was wonderful this episode. This is the first episode where he isn't the main antagonist and is seen being a genuine teenager, which I love for him. I think it really established a good relationship between him and the rest of the Emerald Entrails, especially Willow and Gus, which is important for Labyrinth Runners and possibly Clouds on the Horizon. Reaching out. Oh boy! Reaching out. This episode is a Lumity episode, but it's revealed that both these lovely ladies have parental issues, except Amity's parents are controlling and Luz's dad is deceased. This really shows how committed both Luz and Amity are, and how their relationship is steadily becoming more open and honest. The end shows V and Camilla, both doing well, which concerns me because Dana Terrace most definitely will bring something up about this in Clouds on the Horizon. By the way, everyone, we have completed the 4 episodes in 2B that spell out fear. In case you didn't know, the episodes of Season 2 will spell out, Seek the Key, Fear the Lock. As you can see, this is the less happy half of the season, and we're about to see why. Starting out the next word, Them's the Breaks, Kid is a flashback episode with Ida, Lilith, and Rain. Now, looking at this, I can't really finds anything that would hint to Clouds on the Horizon, since Rain and Ida's situationship is pretty much an open book at this point. Then, Hollow Mind. Sweet Jesus Christ on a cross. Let's look at this one. Hollow Mind is lore heavy and basically confirms that Bellows is Philip. It also shows that the Day of Unity is about sealing magic away. Also, Hunter is a Grimwalker, which is basically a clone of a dead person. In this case, my theory, Bellows' brother, who I also suspect was named Caleb, based on an exchange back in Any Sport in a Storm. As sad as this was, God, I love the memes that spawned from this. Luz and Hunter both leave the episode traumatized and Hunter actually runs away, so we don't get to know what happens to him. Edge of the World is centered around King, who goes with Luz and Hootie, who was great this episode, which is a sentence I never thought I would say, and visits a tribe known as Titan Trappers. Supposedly, they're the ones who killed off the Titans, and they worship the Collector, who I have my eyes on. Well, we found out what King's species is. He's a Titan. The last Titan, in fact. So, that's that. Ending the second word out was kind of horrifying. The good news is that my comfort episode is after this. Labyrinth Runners actually doesn't feature Ida, Luz, or King at all. It mainly focuses on Gus, who is having some trust issues. He finds Hunter after running away, and we have some fun sibling-like bonding featuring at least 2 panic attacks and also Willow and Amity, who have their own little side. There's 2 moments in this episode that I could comment on, but I grew up on Mistreat and I know what happens when you mention shipping. Gus is actually such a powerful witch and he deserved this episode. This is also another Hunter finally gets a happy moment episode, which is great. The most recent episode, "Oh Titan Where Art Thou?" ruined me. Spoilers, by the way. It put Luz and Ida through a traumatizing episode, and then King went on his own journey of self-discovery to avoid Lilith and Hootie. I find King's story really interesting because he's just a kid who was told he is the last of his kind. He's fairly passive about it. Also, Steve. What really caught my attention and never left was the collector scene at the beginning where King was in a sort of Eclipse Lake dimension. First things first, this leads me to believe King and the collector are connected, which I hope is explored more in the next episode. Also, something I found is that the collector seemed like a kid, despite being thousands of years old. You could hear pain in his voice when King was leaving. That led me to thinking that the collector doesn't actually know the dark intentions behind Bello's plan. He's been lonely for years and just wants a friend. Of course, he knows Bellows is sort of demeaning, but he probably doesn't realize what cost it will come at. Now, what will happen in Clouds on the Horizons? Well, thanks to someone on TikTok who accidentally got a glitched thumbnail on iTunes, we know that at some point, it will return where O Titan left out, probably with Luz carving her palisman. The palisman is a whole mystery in itself. Personally, I think it'll be a bat, like on her little communication device with Amity. I've also heard another bird or an otter as possibilities. I think this episode will have to be where the rebellion meets up with Hexside, unless they're going to be in the last one. Alternatively, it could follow another subplot outline switching between Hexside and Cats, which, I personally agree with Darius, is a dumb name since the last one was Bats. Listen guys, I really want to see Hexside after that episode. Also, it will either be the beginning of the Day of Unity, or it will be the day before, but tensions will definitely be high. What I really want to see is Bellows getting his butt kicked by some 15-year-olds with authority issues, but I know that won't happen. Actually, seeing how it's the second to last episode of the season, he'll probably get the upper hand, maybe even in the next episode. Anyways, what I want: Hexside Squad, specifically our 4 other main children, Palisman reveal, maybe a comeback from another character or characters to pull off an army. What I know: the rebellion, Lumity probably, and Steve. Steve has stolen all our hearts. Oh, you thought I wouldn't come back to the shipping? Like I said, my street changes people, for better or for worse. Mostly worse. Now, I have my own opinions, and I'm hoping that it's Dana's opinion too, but I do respect other people's pairings and headcanons. I really don't want to see this fandom go down in flames due to shipping. It's what drove me out of BNHA and so many other fandoms with great artists and creators. On the other hand, personally, in my opinion, respectfully, I find Huntlow adorable. If you don't, whatever you do not look me up on Pinterest. In fact, let's just keep that rule in place for everyone.